sure to use your mind, though. Look for all the signs, yo. Don't wanna make a move too quick and get left behind, yo. Be in command of whatever you encounter. Appreciate your blessings, son. You'll see what it amounts to.
What's up, YouTube? Hope everything is well today, Not much to say. As always, it's me, Yaretsi, how it is, nothing new for the most part. Today's topic is gonna be, man, this hat keeps falling. Oh man, what do you want? This shit just slipped and fell, what? Yeah, this is the thinking cap. This is what I call her, honestly. Technically, she's not done, but I don't know, I kind of like it like this. Pretty much. Yeah. Alright. Basically, how are we going to introduce this? For the most part, recently I was in a kind of a little mental stump, you could say, right? Obviously, we got out of it easy game, right. But today's main topic of conversation, basically like the whole thing, what I'm trying to tell you, is about this book. Essentially, like the whole thing is talking about quantum physics, but it's like step by step and how to apply it, things like that. I honestly just thought that book was pretty interesting. And so I'm here to talk about it today. I kind of summarized it. That's pretty much it because you'll see. Let's get into it. I got all my stuff written down, annotated, everything. But basically, I'm about everything for the first part, me. Everything else for the most part, like the second half, is pretty much from this book. Pretty much, okay? So we're going to be quoting that directly, but towards the end. For now, I always like to kind of start it off with a little talk of the day, a little bit encouragement, if you will, sort of, a little knowledge within that. Let's get it now. All right. Trip as many times as you need to. That's what we're here for. That's what this game of life is. You stumble, get back up, and stumble again. But never forget your power and never forget your worth. That's the most important thing. You don't look at the stars and expect them to be anything other than that, right? Right. You're here and you make a difference. And it's so very important that you express what you have in your heart. If you're a bottle tightly sealed, you'll most likely implode, right? Hold on, I'm trying to look and then talk. Should I put this up? Okay, we'll put it a little bit up here. But basically, you're going to implode from all this pressure. We're not meant to internalize this physical reality. Everybody's different, right? The way I see it, low key, everyone is a different elemental. You can think of it that way, right? Hey, sometimes you're a person of the air. You gotta sit down, take a breath, and think things out. That's how you process things in the world. Yeah, like me, I'm a fire element. So, if I'm in my head too much, it'll kind of go down south real quick. Taking action is what's best for me, personally. But if you're a water elemental, you're going to tend to be a very emotional person. And that's okay. There's a wide spectrum of emotions, but you'll need to learn how to ride the waves instead of drowning. And that takes time. Earth elementals, from, the people I met that were earth elementals, they're pretty chill people. Very solid in their character and grounded. They have a stillness that's immovable, okay? Like a big boulder. The main thing, all this came to me, when I went on a walk to clear my head. But basically, the main thing is you just got to stop, reset, and rewire. If you think of who you are as set in stone, no true growth will happen. If you're not liking who you're becoming or who you are in this moment or the things that are happening to you, you can essentially erase that mindset you currently have. If only some of it is working, then keep that. But you have the free will to release what is no longer serving you, okay? Tear down and rebuild that foundation. Once that foundation is strong, ain't nothing gonna be able to move you, right? Because if you got that weak foundation, it's easily, you can just flick it, done. All right, that's why that's important. It's a very natural part of life. What goes up must come down, and what is down will eventually go up. It's just that loop you got to go through of all. Every time. But that's the beauty, you know? Moving from one state to another. Essentially like a very fluid, like you should be, you know, always kind of fluid in a way. Like, what really comes to mind when I say that is like, think of Bruce Lee when he's like, be water, my friend, you know? But there's also a certain balance you have to find between that. I think I'll either link that interview or add it here. We'll see.
Played by James Francisco.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Like that, is it?
But change is gonna happen regardless. I don't think I've ever seen somebody or something stay the same forever. Let's be honest, bro. Nothing lasts forever, okay? And whether that's a good or bad thing depends purely on your perspective. Your view tends to be pinpointed. Hold up. I lost my spot. Oh my gosh. I gotta get one of those teleprompters where you could just read it and it's just going. But yeah, your view tends to be pinpointed on one singular event, belief, or emotion. You really have to open more than your eyes, okay, to accept life in all its fullness. It's not just that little speck you see. It's that whole, I guess, sphere, you know. There's not just one thing to it, not one single speck. Like, you got to look at it as a whole. And then from that, you can take each thing. But from that little speck, you can't really, you get my point. You have to take this growth and nurture it. It's an everyday thing, okay? Don't be just like, okay, I got to a certain point, you know, where I'm doing good now, and that's it. Like, I'm good, you know, I don't really need to do too much else. Like, no, okay? Don't let yourself think you know it all. Once you solidify your state of mind, you're cooked. We're all students of life, and I'm no exception. In the grand scheme of things, I don't really think there is a final form. Just remembrance. You're always learning. There's always something to be taken from a situation. There's also a saying from a song, I forget what it's called, but it says, I don't know what I'm running from, but I'm running still. And really what comes to mind with that is our fight or flight systems, right? That's all you know. Even if your environment is showing you safety, your inner world, which generates your outer world, in turn, if that's not stable, if you're inside, you know, you're seeing everything from a point of view of fear, then your outside, it's just not going to reflect, you know, what you want back to you. It's going to reflect what you're feeling, okay? Now I'm going to explain it. We're going to get a little deeper into it, okay? But before I get to the meat of it, I got to explain, you know, the potatoes, the carrots, you know what I mean? Just everything that goes into that stew. But all right, constant tension and fear then leads to a higher level of anxiety, which then turns into anxious thinking patterns. So you're always on edge as a result. It's that constant repetition of things that kind of like, it stays ingrained in your mind, okay? A lot of us, okay, myself included, tend to ignore the fundamentals like our diet, sleep, and getting exercise. These are all very important for the brain and body to function properly. Don't think you're the exception to these, okay? You always hear the saying mind over matter, which basically is the use of willpower to overcome physical problems. But the real thing is, mind and matter are completely entangled. Your consciousness, which is your mind, has effects on energy, which is, you know, matter. Consciousness is energy, and energy has consciousness. Stay with me now. Oh my gosh. Think of the brain like a computer made up of hardware. The hardware is the actual physical functioning of the brain. And the software, which is the constant programming and reshaping of the brain. They are not separate but work together, okay? Now, to get into it, we're going to be talking about the quantum physics, right? The first part, that's just me talking to you. You know, you and me here. But now we're actually about to get to the quantum physics of it. I'll explain it a little deeper. Okay? Energy is much more than an outside force exerted on material things. Sorry, Newman. Energy is the very fabric of all things. Material, right? Keep this in mind. What if I told you that the solid ground we stand on isn't? Alright, this is like my little ringy-dink drawing of it, but... So, to kind of understand what we're looking at, when I say that the ground, you know, that we stand on isn't solid, we got to show you what, you know, the ground is made up of, right? So, this is the old school model of an atom, which, you know, is made up of electrons, protons, neutrons, which then make the atom, which then are, like they say, were the building blocks of all physical things, right? So, atoms seem to be made of solid stuff, right? Second version, a little newer, the quantum atom. You know, in the middle it shows the nucleus, and then over it the electron cloud. Basically, this one is showing how it's made up of 99.99999% energy and 0.00001% matter, right? So it's more nothing than something, basically. Okay, and this last one, the real quantum atom. You see how there's nothing there? This is the most realistic model, so it's nothing materially, but all things potentially, all right? At a subatomic level, energy responds to your mindful attention and becomes matter. Think of the observer effect, you know, I think, search that up, yeah. So, reality equals pure potential, okay? But everything material is constantly emitting specific patterns of energy, and since energy carries information, your fluctuating states of mind, conscious or unconscious, change that energetic signature on a moment-to-moment basis, okay? Remember that the heart and brain are one. With this, you know, our emotions affect our heart rhythms, which in turn affects what? Okay. So essentially, it's like thinking plus feeling will equal your state of being, okay? The quantum field doesn't respond to what we want. It responds to who we are being, okay? Essentially, whatever you kind of want to see out in the world, it's more powerful when you combine an emotion, you know, the feeling, and an intention, which would be your thought. So, our routine, known thoughts, and feelings perpetuate the same state of being, which then creates the same behaviors, which then generates the same reality. You catching my drift? You do the same things, you get the same things. Break the pattern if you want to experience a new state of mind, okay? But change requires coherence. Ignore the rest of the notes, but this is what I mean by coherence, right? If your heart and your brain are on that matching that same wavelength, the stronger the electromagnetic signal you are sending out will be. If it is incoherent, let's say, you know, this is your thought, this is whatever, the same thing. This is your thought and this is your emotion. If it's not really matching, it will not produce the desired effect. Even if you tried to create something while thinking it was possible, but feeling in your heart that it wasn't, your desired reality will not be produced. This is a random example, okay? Let's say you're praying for things and thinking of a new life, but your upbringing instilled nothing but guilt into you, okay? That incoherence in the heart will only generate more things to feel guilty about. Typically, when asked what we are grateful for, it's things already present in the physical world like family, places, and things. We've been conditioned to believe we need a reason for joy, but that's relying on external reality to make us feel different internally, which is, that's backwards. Don't think of life as cause and effect, waiting for an outside to change your inner worldview, but as causing an effect, which would be changing your inside to produce an effect on your outer world, okay? That's why intention is so important. If you have a specific goal or vision in mind, don't think and feel aimlessly. Humans want to control the future reality, which is unknown, by trying to recreate how it occurred in a past reality, which they do know, which is known. This is why certain individuals find themselves in the same constant cycle. Let go of how a desired event will unfold, have faith, and trust in yourself. These are all just kind of bulletin points, right? Pretty much. I wanted to kind of just get this information and ball it all up. And these are like the main points that I took from, this is only the first chapter, right? But now with all that kind of explained, I'll basically like the part that blew my mind, once you get down to like knowing the atoms and how it makes, we're made up of the girl, wait, okay. But is reality nothing but indifferent electromagnetic forces acting on and in response to one another? Is it the animating spirit within us simply a function of biology and randomness? I've had conversations with people who hold this view. Ultimately, the discussion leads to a dialogue that goes something like this. Where does the intelligence that keeps our heart beating come from? That's part of the autonomic nervous system. Where is that system located? The brain. The brain's limbic system is a part of the autonomic nervous system. And within the brain are there specific tissues that are responsible for keeping the heart beating? Yes, okay. What are those tissues made up of? Cells. And what are those cells made up of? Molecules. And what are those atoms made up of? Subatomic particles. And what are those subatomic particles primarily composed of? Energy! When we arrive at the conclusion that our physiological vehicle is made up of the same stuff as the rest of the universe, and these folks bump up against the notion that what animates the body is a form of energy, the same 99% nothing that constitutes the physical universe, they either shrug and walk away or come to realize that there is something to this notion that a unifying principle pervades all of physical reality. Isn't it ironic then that we keep all of our attention on the 0.0001% of reality that is physical? Are we missing something? If this nothing consists of energy waves that carry information, and this force organizes our physical structures and their functioning, then it certainly makes sense to refer to the quantum field as an invisible intelligence. And since energy is at the basis of all physical reality, that intelligence I've just described to you has organized itself into matter. Okay. Thinking of the preceding conversation as a kind of template for how this intelligence has constructed reality, the quantum field is invisible potential energy that is able to organize itself from energy to subatomic particles to atoms to molecules. All right. Put another way, this potential energy lowers itself as a frequency of wave patterns until it appears solid. It is this universal intelligence that gives life to that field and everything in it, including you and me. This power is the same universal mind that animates every aspect of the material universe. This intelligence keeps our hearts beating and our stomachs digesting food and oversees that incalculable number of chemical reactions per second that can take place in every cell. Moreover, the same consciousness prompts the trees to grow fruit and causes distant galaxies to form and collapse, because it exists in all places and times and exerts its power within us and all around us. This intelligence is both personal and universal. So you see, we were never separate from each other or this physical world we perceive. Isn't that such a jolly thing? The same things they taught you to attach yourself to, such as identity, religions, basically anything outside of yourself, made you believe you aren't a part of it all. It is you, and you are it experiencing itself. So cool. This is done so purposely, okay? Think back to our school systems, right? They only ever taught us of a demographic of people always having power over the other and used time to make it seem like a thing of the past. But remember, all time and space is interconnected. The quantum field doesn't know good versus bad, only the codes that are being output. When you have this hatred, which is the emotion, and death and violence or control, which would be the thought, projecting on a global scale, where is change to be seen? If that is what's mainly being input into the general system, then it'll manifest as such. They try to say things are different now, but war and separation still continues. If that's all they have programmed throughout generations and only few realize this, how do you expect to see any break in these patterns? This is how they preset certain mindsets while letting people think it was their ideology all along. BS. Okay? This is exactly why it is important we recognize how much power we as individuals hold. That's my little conclusion for you, you know. That's what I got from this whole thing. That's what I really wanted you to realize. Yeah. But that concludes this session, really. I hope you were able to grasp this concept. I tried my hardest to summarize the key details for optimum brain absorption, you know, but it's a long book, you know. This is only first chapter, but even if you are in a low kind of state of mind right now, you got the power to change it. It's just a matter of remembering, like, you know, you're programming those certain states of minds. It's not necessarily like you're doing it on purpose. Some of it, like we said, could be unconscious. But know that you don't have to be a victim of certain circumstances, okay?
Natural instinct, and here is control. You are to combine the two in harmony. Not, if you have one to the extreme, you will be very unscientific. If you have another to the extreme, you become all of a sudden a mechanical man, no longer a human being. So it is a successful combination of both. So therefore, it is not only, therefore it's not pure naturalness or unnaturalness. The ideal is unnatural naturalness or natural unnaturalness.